Greetings all, this is Nick from Those Hairy Gamers, and I'm joined by Justin from Those Hairy Gamers.
Hi guys.
How you doing, Justin?
Doing well.
Excellent. We're back to talk about some more X-Wing stuff. Thank you for all the responses in regards to all the tech upgrades and stuff I've been doing. We had a nice long comment from Mr. Nathan Blanchard with lots of different ideas. Thank you so much, dude. I will get to all of these one by one. But one in particular you mentioned is you wanted to know what to do with the Quadjumper. And that's actually a subject I know quite a lot about because I've flown it quite a lot. And I love the Quadjumper, so why not? It's a bit of a weird ship. It's not an ace. It's not a big ship that's really tanky. It's a small ship that has a certain degree of control, but it's very unique in the way it functions.
It does also just look interesting.
It does. You know where it's from, Justin?
It's episode 7.
Yes, it's the non-junk ship that blew up.
Yes,
very cool. I love in Star Wars how something dumb like that happens. We see the ship for like 2 seconds, and then, of course, an entire novel, an entire encyclopedia of work gets written on that ship because, of course, it's Star Wars.
It needs to happen.
So the Quadjumper in that scene was owned by Unca Plutt, but it was used by lots of pirates and smugglers and traders and the like to haul stuff around space. It could carry quite a lot, but it could also use its tractor array to haul physical goods through space. That's the whole idea of this ship. And the flavour of how it works in the X-Wing game is it can do that to other ships on the field. And indeed, its biggest advantage comes through the modification, the Space Tug Tractor Array. It basically means, as an action, you can assign a tractor token to any ship at range 1. And this is really big. People don't really realise how big this is because this is now the only ship that can assign tractor tokens during the activation phase, not after you shoot. And indeed, it means you can also assign tractor tokens before certain ships fly.
You can also target your own ships as well.
Yes, you can. That's right. And it also gives you the option of moving them around as if you were tractoring an opponent's ship. So you can use it for repositioning, that kind of stuff. I don't think there's much value in that myself. I think tractoring your own ships is very, very risky. I mean, it's a scum ship, so of course risk is always inherently built into them. But the value in this is being able to move your opponent's ship during the activation phase, which is the way I tend to build my lists with this kind of thing. So in terms of how I'd use this ship, let's look at the actual pilots behind it. Let's go from bottom to top and actually talk about how these pilots function. And I think that they all pretty much have value, barring one, but on the low and high end of the spectrum, these pilots all have a bit of use. First of all, the generic, the Jakku Gunrunner, pilot skill 1, no card text, cost 15 points with no EPT slot. So this is the basic frame of the Quadjumper. 2 attack, 2 agility, 5 hull, no shields, and the upgrade bar goes crew, bomb, tech, illicit. So right off the bat, with this PS1 guy, I want to give him the Space Tug Tractor Array, and I want to use cards that capitalise on that. We have a crew, so Intel Agent for me is a no-brainer for this, because what you can do here is you can look at your opponent's dial, activate your PS1 before they fly, which is almost always because you have a PS1, and then using the tractor array, you can put them into a position which will cause them to move somewhere that really annoys them. This is especially powerful against aces, because if aces bump your ship, that is big. That's the difference between an ace living or dying, and aces cost usually about a third of your list. So you can force them to bump into the Quadjumper, you can force them onto an asteroid, you can force them to fly over an asteroid. You could theoretically do both. You could force it onto an asteroid and then as it moves it flies over the asteroid again, which is just disgusting.
Or from the asteroid into you.
Yeah, you could do all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially you're making the ship do something it doesn't want to do. You're putting it in a bad position. Sure, at the end of the day they may still clear and then do boosts and barrel rolls to reposition themselves, but if you've done this right, they've bumped, or they've hit an asteroid and you've just given them a real bad time. This is powerful against aces. It's still powerful against any other small ship. It's just okay against big ships. Obviously, big ships can't get moved with the tractor token like the small ships can. So yeah, it's cool. It's very powerful against like most of the meta right now. The frame is still very fragile. It's 2 green dice, only 5 hull. But the idea is we're not stacking a lot of points on this. This build I'm looking at right here costs 20 points. which is fine. A little guy that controls the game. You can still throw him alongside like your Fenrir, your Dengar or whatever. Throw him alongside something that's a big heavy hitter that's going to be a target for your opponent. Make them regret not targeting the Quadjumper.
I like that.
It only costs 20 points. Because it only costs 20 points, you're creating an issue for your opponent. You generally want to target the stuff that has more points stacked onto it because that's the way you leverage your points against your opponent, and that's what X-Wing's all about. But at this low cost, you're making something that can really screw with the entire game and still be competitive. The rest of the build, what have I missed? The Pattern Analyzer. Now, this is the last thing I put it on. This caps out the 20 points. And what the Pattern Analyzer does is, when executing a maneuver, you may resolve the check pilot stress step after the perform action step. Now, that's just a very complicated way of saying, do a red maneuver, take an action, then take stress. It means you have that option. You can do the reverse maneuver with the Quadjumper and then take an action, which is really powerful. You can reverse into a position where you can space tug them. It basically means your space tug or your barrel roll is always activating. Very cool thing. It also means you can't do a red maneuver, then a white maneuver and do an action. So there is an outside fringe case for taking prime thrusters over this, because prime thrusters lets you do a red maneuver and keep a stress and barrel roll over and over and over again. But to me, this one just has a bit more power because of the tractor array. It means that one turn where you have to reverse and tractor array, you can do it. So at a 20-point cost, this ship can really, really troll hard. This ship is capable of giving ships that cost way more than it a very hard time. I've seen it happen. It's disgusting. I've seen this guy single-handedly take a Brobot out of a game, one of the two IG-88s. So against a list that only has 2 ships, I'm using my 20-point ship and forcing one of your ships to have no impact on the game whatsoever. As soon as you take something out of the game that's worth more than this ship, you're already on the way to winning.
Yes.
That's just how it is. Let's move on to the next guys. The next one we have is Unka Plut. And the great thing about him is you can do a very similar build. He only costs 2 more points, and he's pilot skill 3, but the reason you would ever want to take him is at the end of your activation phase, you must assign a tractor beam token to each ship you are touching. So again, if you're trolling someone with this guy and they're constantly bumping you over and over again, which you can force if you're using the tractor array, the intel agent, the barrel roll, just to get those positioning just right every single turn, they're getting more tractor tokens each turn. You can give them a tractor array token, and then they bump you, and then get another tractor token. And having 2 means they lose 2 green dice. And that's an ace, like going from 3 green dice to 1 green dice. That's an ace absolutely dying if they get shot.
That's painful.
It is really, really powerful. The idea here is you could take the Jakku Gunrunner build. This build works great on both ships, and it only costs 2 more points. So if you happen to have the points spare, great. You can just do that. But having said that, I still would change Unka Plut a little bit. I'd go a little bit harder and give him the EMP device because he wants to sit inside a swarm of ships. Why not give him the illicit card, which gives ion tokens to all the ships right next to you? It's a card that capitalizes naturally on his ability. So I quite like that. So between the costs of 20 and 24 points, you have a decent little controller. I personally prefer the Jakku Gunrunner just because it's 20 points. You could even knock it down into 19 points by making Pattern Analyzer prime thrusters, and at 19 points, that's really solid. You're getting a ship that can have a lot of flavour in the game and just be really annoying. It's scum to the core. I love it. I absolutely love it. So let's go up with the pilot skills. Now, the next one here is a pilot which I would not consider taking. Sarko Plunk. When defending, instead of using your agility value, you may roll a number of defence dice equal to the speed of the maneuver you executed this round. Now, the reason I don't like this because I feel like the Quadjumper's role in this game is to be annoying, small, and controlling. This ability screams, I want to be an ace, I want to be tanky, I want to do a lot of damage, and it doesn't fit on this ship. I don't know quite what they were thinking putting this ability on this ship. And for 18 points, I'd rather go down 1 point and take Unka Plut's ability. You know,
Unka Plut seems like he's going to be doing more as a ship than this guy.
Yeah, exactly. And he does more with the natural role of the Quadjumper. That's what I feel like. Sarko Plunk just, to me, it doesn't fit. No. And 18 points is not competitively costed. 1 point less gets you Unka Plut's ability. Yeah, you don't have an EPT, but I don't really care because I don't think there's a really good EPT to capitalise on Psychoplunk's ability.
No.
Having said all this, if you guys in the comments think Psychoplunk's good and you've had some success with him, please tell me what that build was, because I'd love to hear it. I just don't see it myself.
It almost feels like he should be on another ship.
Agreed. Completely agreed. Another ship that can fly harder.
Yeah.
Because the Quadjumper's only capable of doing a 3-speed maneuver max. So his ability can only increase his agility by 1. Big whoop.
Yeah, it's not really enough, is it?
Big whoop. I can't see any advantage of rolling less dice unless there's an upgrade I haven't thought about. But on like an interceptor or something like that, something that can do 4 or 5 speed maneuvers, something that you've basically punished for flying slow, you have to fly it like a bat out of hell. That'd be incredible. But that doesn't work on the Quadjumper.
No.
Not at all. Not at all.
So, answers in the comments, guys. Let us know
what to do with this ship, exactly. So the final ship we have here is Constable Zuvio. Pilot skill 7, has an EPT slot at 19 points. His ability reads, when you reveal a reverse maneuver, you may drop a bomb using the front guides, including a bomb with the action header. In other words, you can treat an action bomb like an activation bomb. An activation bomb being a bomb you drop before you move rather than as an action. In my own head, I call them activation bombs, but I realised, oh, hang on, you guys don't know that. So when I say activation bomb, I mean a bomb that you drop before you move. When this first came out, I thought, nope, this is dumb. You only get 1 bomb on this ship. Oh no, you're going to use the bomb, and then he basically has no pilot ability. Now we have the bomblet generator.
This makes it very, very interesting, because you're all of a sudden going, I can do a bomb every turn, either from the front or from the back.
And you're getting the benefit from his ability over and over again.
Yeah.
Granted, you can't do it 2 times in a row because the reverse maneuver is red, so you have to clear the stress before you do it again. But it's still really, really powerful. And the way we get access to the bomb is we give him Cad Bane in the crew slot. That way we have 2 bomb slots in the Quadjumper, and then you're making the most of this. You're putting it on a guy that plays around with the way you drop bombs. You're giving him Cad Bane, so you're getting the rerolls off the bomb generated bombs. It's a good little symbiosis with those 3 cards. I quite like that. We can always put Cad Bane on any other Quadjumper pilot and do the same thing, but I think it just makes the most sense on Constable Zuvio.
I agree.
The last thing I put on Constable Zuvio is the prime thrusters. The reason for that being is we're going to be wanting to do the reverse maneuver. We're going to want to be doing the barrel roll. I generally opt not to put on the Space Tug tractor array. If I do that, I'm also going to want Pattern Analyzer instead of prime thrusters, and that increases this squad point cost by 3. And I feel like 29 points is just a bit too close to sort of ace territory. We're talking like 30 and low 30s, like we're nipping at the heels of that kind of cost, and we're talking like Fen Rao and Old Terok and
something that can actually do something
that can,
a lot more.
Something that is consistently amazing. And I don't want to go there. I think 26 points is a much better thing. It's almost just a quarter of your squad. You could almost justify like 3 TLT thugs and 1 without an unhinged astromech. And Constable Zuvio. That could be quite a lot of fun. And obviously VI, getting back to Pilot Skill 9. I don't think there's many other EPTs that are really going to capitalise on this guy too much. I wouldn't go Fearlessness or Crack Shotting like that. That's not how this guy wants to fly. He wants to have as much control over his flying as possible, and making him fly as late as possible, potentially last every game, is fantastic. Because you want to know whether that bomb's going to hit or not. So, give him Pilot Skill 9. That, to me, is a no-brainer. And yeah, if you do that, you've got a really well-costed, very vicious bomber in the game. There are a few good bombers on the Scum faction now, with Captain Nim, a couple of the Fire Spray pilots like Eamon Azamine, even Boba Fett right now works quite well with bombs. But they all cost a lot. They're all over 40, around about 50 points each. Wow. To have one that costs 26 and could potentially do a lot of good. Again, I'm favouring something that costs less because it means I can leverage the points of that ship in order to make my opponent really think about whether they want to kill it or not. The Jakku Gunrunner or Constable Zuvio both have vicious abilities where if you leave them, you're basically letting your opponent do a lot of damage to you. But you're also targeting something that costs relatively less than everything else, which is also a bad choice. You're
looking sometimes at a ship that can be half the cost of some of these other ships, and these abilities are still relevant.
Yeah, they're absolutely not as good as those ships. But are they half as good? No, they're probably better. That's the whole idea. X-Wing is a game where it is all about leveraging your points against your opponent's points. Forget all the theory about symbiosis between pilots and abilities, that kind of stuff. Forget all that. Put it to one side. At the very raw element of list building, you should be thinking about how are my points going to beat my opponent's points. Focus on that first. That's the only thing you should be thinking about when building a list. Everything else comes after. And the Quadjumper is a good way of doing that. Do I think it's meta shaping? No, I don't think these guys have had a big enough impact on the meta, but they're still great options. And I think at these point cost, Scum don't really have a lot of other good solid options. Yeah, the TLT Thug is the only thing I can think of. It costs 25 points, so it's sitting right in the middle of all these guys. But you might want to take a TLT Thug and one of these guys, or you might want to go for the 20-point cost guys. There's nothing else really in the Scum faction that has a really good solid 20-point build. That's why I love the Jakku Gunrunner. Out of all of these, my favourite is the Jakku Gunrunner with Intel, Pattern Analyzer and Space Type Tractor Array. I think it's a really solid build. I actually, when this came out, I flew 2 of these guys alongside a Sarge Ventress. There was stress and track tokens going all over the board, and I had a great time with that. So thank you, Nathan, so much for that comment. I hope that helped. Because the Quadjumper is another really good unique ship. I feel like Fantasy Flight have been really good at giving us unique ships, and hopefully they'll continue to do that into the future. And the Quadjumper is a prime example. There is nothing else in the game that can give tractor tokens during the activation phase, and if you leverage the ship around that, you're having a real good time. And Justin, I hope you learned something about another ship today.
I have. It's an interesting looking ship, and the ships that you've brought out look really viable. It just looks like a fun ship to play with.
Yeah, and that's what I found too. Don't know how competitive it is, but it's a real fun ship to play with. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out those hairy gamers for more gaming content, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.
Bye.